So today we're doing something completely different. We're visiting the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa. It's fun.
Well then, just how good does the museum have to be to drag me away from my computer and drive me to commit such a heinous crime against fashion? Well, let's look at the facts here, shall we? You see, we're talking about over 2 kilometers of permanent exhibition, about 1,100 artworks, 55,000 books, and over 500,000 artifacts in the museum's collection. So, you're probably going to say, okay, yeah, that's a big museum, it has a nice busted Stug, it has maybe a Sherman or two, like this M4A2 over here, with 75mm gun and a welded hole. But that's all fairly typical. Every military museum is supposed to have at least 1 or 2 tanks. Oh, just you wait. So here we have a nice M3 half-track command vehicle, complete with its radio. And with a lovely Medusa. Next up is a Brent carrier. Beautiful, beautiful condition. Oh, look, my Jeep's grandfather. The museum also goes to great lengths to give you a very good feel of how it was to be a soldier in different campaigns that the Canadian forces took part in, as well as what impact exactly it had on the civilians. How life was back at home on war bonds and awaiting news from the front. There's also a number of models of trenches and battlefields that you can go through. It's quite an amazing experience. Now, that's all very nice, but I'm pretty sure this is not what you're here for. What you want to see is the Le Breton Gallery. Now sit back, get comfortable, and feast your eyes. And starting here at Tier 1, we have a Renault FT17. Really cramped in there for its 2-man crew. This particular specimen has the late model turret with a cannon. And moving right along, we have the Italian L335 tankette, which you may remember from the last OVA. We're seeing it here from eye level. This gives you a good idea just how tiny that thing is. Only 3 meters long and 3.2 tons in weight, also extremely simple in design. Right here you can see its transmission. Now moving on to something a little bit more sophisticated. This is a very, very nice condition Panzer II, the kind that took part in Operation Fall of Ice at the beginning of World War II. Fast and lightly armed, it was well suited to Blitzkrieg at the beginning of the war, but it was phased out by the time of Operation Barbarossa. Now this here is one of only 2 surviving Canadian-built Valentine tanks. This one was recovered in 1990 from a swamp in Ukraine and donated to the Canadian War Museum in 1992. This here is a T-17 Staghound American armored car. Next up is something a wee little bit bigger, a Churchill Mark III. This one has the fenders removed and an amphibious kit installed, as you can see from those tall tailpipes and air intakes on the sides. The Churchill is actually surprisingly small for a heavy tank. Moving on, we get the M3 Lee, a horrendously misguided tank design which nevertheless proved quite successful in North Africa. Next up is its far more refined derivative, the M4A2E8, aka the EZ8 Sherman, with a 76mm gun and the HVSS suspension. Further up we have the iconic M5 Stuart light tank. It's a tiny, tiny vehicle, but typical of most American tanks of the era. It's quite tall actually. And now moving on to the good stuff. This is a T-34-85, just like the one we used in our recruitment video. The difference being, this one is in mint condition and is driven regularly. The turret bears the insignia of an elite guard unit. Everything on this tank works, including the radio, and its V12 diesel is in perfectly running condition as well. Like I said, this tank is driven around on a regular basis. By the way, despite what the internet says, those seats are actually quite comfortable. Now, ask anybody at all from the Eastern Bloc to draw a T-34 tank, and they will draw one, more or less accurately, but always with 102 on its turret. Okay, what's up with the 102, you're gonna ask? Why is it so iconic? Well, the answer is this. You'll have a very hard time finding anybody who grew up in the Eastern Bloc in the 1970s, 1980s, even 1990s, who hasn't seen or at least heard of this TV series. The Four Tankmen and a Dog is a story of a Polish T-34 crew in World War II, from the formation of their unit in 1944 to the Siege of Berlin in 1945, spanning 21 nearly 1 hour long episodes. The show had lovable characters, many adventures, spectacular battles. It had moments of hilarious comedy, as well as heartbreaking tragedy. It also had a lot of tanks. To this date, this series holds a very special place in the hearts of the millions who watched it. And one very telling sign of that is right here. That inscription right there, the name of the tank, Ginger, is available in World of Tanks. Of course, it could be a coincidence, but given the fact that most T-34-85s restored and on display in Eastern Europe carry the number 102, probably not. And now for something completely different. There are some German armored vehicles in the museum as well, like this rare Jagdpanzer IV with an L-70 gun, and what could be considered a crown jewel of the collection, this Panther, Ausführung A. Panthers are very rare in museums and a real treasure to any museum that actually owns one. This one here was captured near the end of the war and apparently has spent the rest of the war and a few years after as a touring exhibit throughout Europe. It finally came to rest at the Canadian Forces base in Borden, Ontario, where it remained on display for decades. Of course, being a Panther, the tank was immobilized by some mechanical failure, and simply sat there, pretty much fully complete, until it was transferred to the museum in 2005. The museum has gathered a dedicated team of technicians and volunteers who have spent 2 years putting their all into this restoration project. The tank was nearly fully stripped down and cleaned up from the ground up. I'll just let these photos speak of the scale of the undertaking. As you can see, the Panther was also given a nice coat of Zimmerit, and from 2008 it's available to the public to admire. The museum also has a number of far more unusual vehicles, such as this Great Eastern Ramp. It is basically a bridge layer on the hull of a Churchill tank, designed not only to cross horizontal obstacles, but vertical ones as well. There was only 10 of those contraptions ever made. And this one here is another little oddity. It's a Kangaroo APC, and this particular one, as you can probably tell by now, is based on the Ram 2. That's something you don't really see very often. And as you can see here, that's all it really was, a Ram 2 hull with no turret installed. There is also quite an extensive collection of modern tanks, such as this Leopard C2. Pristine condition inside and out, ready to roll into battle at a moment's notice. And this here is a Chieftain, the world's most advanced tank of the 60s and 70s. This here is a Cougar fire support vehicle. And next up we have an M113 with a tow launcher. And here's the other side with the troop compartment. And of course the very definition of an infantry fighting vehicle, the BMP-1. To be more precise, this is the BRM-1K command variant with the extra wide turret and an extendable mast. There is, however, no more troop capacity. And this one here is a Centurion Mark 11. And no Cold War exhibit would be complete without a T-72. It's an East German T-72M to be exact. It has distinctive rubber side skirts and an extra armor plate on the glasses. Oh, and look, here's the mandatory log. Now, this is only a small portion of the collection gathered here. To see everything, you would need several days. We've spent an entire day there, from morning till closing time, and we've only really managed to skim through everything in search of items that are of most interest to tank enthusiasts. There is so much more to be seen and appreciated. Seriously, if you end up visiting Canada and end up being in Ottawa, this place is a must. If you enjoyed this museum visit video, you're going to love the next one. But that's going to be a surprise. Thanks for watching, stay tuned.